Hi, I'm Stapler. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and this is Sonic Second, where we talk about every episode of Sonic Underground. Feather Mask, could you introduce yourself?
My name's Feather. I go by Hide. I'm an artist, and I guess that's it. I don't know what else to say.
Okay, here's where I say any new Sonic related developments in my life. I don't have any. What is your experience with Sonic?
So I always saw it like in my childhood and stuff like that. I'm gonna be honest. I used to make fun of him because for some reason it was because of those DeviantArt OCs. Like I guess it's because everybody kept making fun of Sonic back then, and so I was kind of like, "Ew, Sonic." And around 2019, I was like on my TV and just looking through stuff, and I just saw Sonic X recommended to me, so I started watching it, and that's how I got into Sonic.
Ah, that's cool. Uh,
Yeah.
how would how are you introduced to Sonic Underground?
Someone on Amino told me about it.
Okay. So here's where I look at episode wikis, or the episode wiki for this episode. Winner Fakes All. So Winner Fakes All was aired in the US on September 13th, 1999, and then in France it was February 10th, 1999. And the writer was Mark Edens. Okay, Mark Edens did other Sonic Underground episodes like The Deepest Fear, Sonic Tonic, The Jewel of the Crown, Doomsday, and the Flying Fortress, and New Echidna in Town. So I'm not gonna look at like all the other stuff he's worked for because we've talked about him before. But yeah, so let me see if there's any. Oh, okay, so the international titles. So this episode is Winner Fakes All in English, of course, and then in French it was Obstacle Course. In German, it was The Race. In Persian, it was Made a Hero. In Polish, it was The First, The Worst. In Portuguese, it was Winners Pretend Everything. In Romanian, it was The Winner Forges Everything. In Russian, it was Success is Never Blame. And in Spanish, it was Winners Winner Fakes All, just like in English. Trivia. When Sonic is running to join the race, he briefly passes by a human girl, and this girl has light skin and purple hair and wears a white dress, open toed sandals, and it's the only human that ever appears in Sonic Underground besides Dr. Robotnik.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I never realized that, but that's true. No
I
human
didn't even
ever.
notice her, but that's really interesting.
Yeah, she appears in that music video where it's like, ooh, built for speed. That you're like, ooh, that's some weird country music.
Yeah, it just kind of jump scared me. I was like, huh?
Yeah. The main plot of this episode is extremely similar to the Sonic Sat AM episode, Sonic Racer. Both episodes involve Robotnik using Sonic's ego to lure him into a fake race despite it being an obvious trap. Also, okay, this is something I noticed without the wiki telling me, but the girl that Bartleby was hanging around looks just like Mindy Latour, but with blue hair.
I think I noticed that.
Yeah. Mindy Latour was the character who appeared in The Price of Freedom.
Yeah, I noticed that, and that's because I know I haven't watched a lot of episodes, but it's because I remember doing a fan dub of that episode, and so immediately when I saw that character, I was like, wait a minute.
You did a fan dub. That's
Yeah,
Was it like orchestrated by someone else, or did you like just?
it was by someone else. It was with multiple people. It's one of those like jokey fan dubs.
Ah, okay. If you know where it is, I'd like to watch it.
Yeah, and I voiced her actually.
Oh wow. Maybe we can do a review of that fan dub on the podcast.
Maybe it's not good, by the way. It's just really silly. But I do have it.
Okay, and now we talk about the episode. So usually I look at my notes, but this time I wanted to experiment and see how well I could do talking about the episode just right after watching it. And so we watched it together just now.
Mhm.
So the episode starts with a Queen Alina narration, and usually I say what the narration was, but when I'm editing, I'm about to. Next time I edit an episode, it's gonna have it's just gonna be like the clip of her saying it instead of me saying it, so I don't need to worry about saying it for the podcast. And at the beginning of the episode, there's like this small mini song, like in the background that I found interesting, and then it went away, and then we never hear it again. And so, yeah, when I have my notes, I usually like go over every detail, but since I'm just describing it right after seeing it, it's like I'm gonna be summarizing it more instead of going into like scene by scene. So, of course, this was an episode where where Robotnik has a scheme where he makes this robot, and the robot is supposed to be really fast, but he knows he's not actually going to be faster than Sonic, but he's going to put on a race because he knows Sonic is going to join that race, and he even knows that Sonic is going to know it as a trap, but he also knows that Sonic is going to not be able to resist the challenge because he's just so prideful of his speed. And so then we go to Sonic, Manic, and Sonya talking about it, and Sonic's like, "I'm going to go," and then Sonya and Manic are like, "Bro, this is obviously a trap," and he's like, "I don't care, I'm going anyways." And then and Sonya is like, "Yeah, well, we're not gonna save you if you go," and he's like, "Okay, whatever," and then he goes off. And
Man, I don't care.
yeah, and he is like, you know what? I'm gonna go into disguise, and so he goes into this beauty salon, and he puts on this wig and dress, and he looks so cute. And then he sees a kid being bullied by these SWAT bots, and he's like, I'm gonna save him. And then at some point, he gets into a situation where his wig falls off, and he's like, oh, yeah, this isn't gonna work. And then he decides to not go into the race after all. He's like, yeah, Sonya and Manic were right. And then Sonya and Manic notice that he's not in the bed because there was a saw. And okay, I described that so terribly. That made no sense. Sonya and Manic notice that he's not in the bed, and in his place is this saw cutting wood. And they're like, what the hell is this? That sounds so bad. Oh, it's not Sonic.
Why do you snore like that?
Yeah, Manic was complaining.
What are these weird patterns?
Yeah, Manic was complaining, like, at least have a good rhythm. That's a terrible rhythm. And when Sonya gets out of her bed, she has like all white on her face and like these I don't know what they're called. Like, I can't think of them, but they're like those green circle things that are famous to put on your eyes.
Cucumbers?
Yeah, cucumbers. And so she puts a mechanical thing on her face to go back to normal. And in between one of the scenes, like she doesn't in one of the shots, she doesn't have her gloves on, and then she has her gloves on again, and then they're back off again. continuity error moment. Very common for this kind of show. And then
Yeah.
let me get water. Let me drink water. That's what happens next. And then they decide to actually save him. And Manic's like, I thought you said you weren't going to save him. And then Sonya's like, do you mean everything you say? That's one of my favorite lines. Do you mean everything
He's
you
like,
say?
yeah.
And then the race starts, and Dingo is in a red dress, and Robotnik thinks that's probably Sonic. And then Sonya and Manic are in the audience of the race, and Sonic watches the race on TV, and he's like, Sonya and Manic are there. They think I'm there. Okay, I have to go there and do something about it. And then Dingo wins the race, and the SWAT bots are after him, and he's in trouble. And then Sonya goes to save him because she thinks that's Sonic, even though that's clearly not. But I guess, like, of course, because he's the one who won, and they think that only Sonic would win, and she thought that he was in that race. So obviously that's just like a really good disguise Sonic was in. And then and Sonya says this funny little thing. She's like, yeah, of course I care about you, even if you're gonna wear that ugly fucking dress. And then she sees Sonic and she's like, wait, you're not Sonic. And they find out it's Dingo, and she's like, you, bye. And then like the Sonic Underground go away and talk about family something, and Sonic's like, I'm so tired. And then Sonya's like, well, are you so tired that you can't race against me to the van? And he's like, okay, I'm not so tired after all. And then he goes really fast because he's Sonic. And then the episode ends. I'd say that was a pretty good episode. Like, a lot of Sonic Underground episodes aren't that good. I think this is one of the better ones, and I think I'm gonna do a ranking of the different Sonic Underground episodes, and I think this one's gonna rank pretty high. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree, because I remember like seeing some other episodes, and I just like some of them were just bad, some of them were okay. I think this is definitely a better one because I
Yeah.
remember some other episodes just annoying me.
Yeah, some other episodes, like, they just don't have that much going for them. And this one is one of those episodes where it takes, like, the very common tropes of, oh, the characters are probably going to be so dumb, they're not going to know all this stuff. And, like, but then they do know. And it's really satisfying when a cartoon main character isn't, like, the stupidest ever. Like, they know that, I don't know how the words for it, but, like, they'll notice if something is a trap, and I just think that's really satisfying. And yeah, and also it's like interesting to see what happens, since the premise was he was gonna fall for the trap, but he doesn't fall for the trap, and we see what happens when he's not in the race.
Yeah. Most of the time, I feel like if you have like a cocky character, usually like it does happen. He does end up like. Most of the time, a main character does end up doing what the others told them not to do, but he ended up actually like choosing, hey, this is kind of stupid, I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah. What did you think about how the tone of this episode was like really silly? I think it's fun how some Sonic Underground episodes are really silly, even though the premise of the show is they're in a post-apocalyptic world where the main dictator can turn everyone into robots, and that's kind of an allegory for death. And then they have this episode.
I honestly, oh, sorry.
No,
I honestly did find it kind of silly that, like you said, that they're in just this like more serious like environment, but most of the episodes are just silly. They're not like, most of them aren't serious like at all.
Yeah, I think that's what I like about this episode, because it's like a Pulp Fiction type thing. I really like silly stuff that you don't have to think that much about, but at the same time I also sometimes like when things get deep. And so a show like this, where it just has episodes that are silly and episodes that are more deep, is really nice, even if the deep episodes aren't even that good, because this show was like really rushed production, because it was kind of in production hell. It's still fun. And yeah, I also, I think a lot of me liking this show is nostalgia too. So a lot of other episodes that aren't as good, I still really like just because it's from my childhood. And then there's this episode, which is actually pretty good. And so I like it because it's nostalgic and from my childhood, and also because it's kind of good.
Yeah.
So
I think usually like when I see like shows like these, I mean like even though like they're not like by like actual standards they're not good, but they are entertaining to watch. I think that kind of makes like that's what's so great about them.
Yeah, that's what I like about this show. Like, before I started this podcast, I was watching most of the show and I almost completed it. And I was watching it in the background while I drew.
Yeah.
And then one day I was like, there isn't a Sonic Underground podcast because most people don't like Sonic Underground. A lot of people hate it, but I love it. So I thought it was my duty to make a Sonic Underground podcast when no one else will. Because when there are Sonic Underground podcasts, it's not a whole podcast. It's like one episode of a podcast where they talk about Sonic Underground.
Yeah, I think I was definitely one of those people that just kind of didn't like Sonic Underground. I was mostly just judging by its cover, and I do remember like watching some reviews being like, oh, how it's like so shitty and whatever. So that was my first like opinion on it because everybody else was saying it's bad.
Yeah. So anything else we have to say about this before we go to the next segment?
Pretty great episode overall.
Yeah.
And
so I think
that's
we
really
learned a
all I
lot
got.
from this episode. Very morally good stuff. What did you learn from this episode?
I'm not exactly sure, but I guess
Okay, let me try. In this episode, Sonic was almost tricked by Robotnik to go into a race. Always don't go into traps, kids. They're not good. Sailor Sonic says.
listen to your friends.
What'd you say?
I said listen to your friends. If they tell you, hey, something might be a trap, maybe don't go in it because that's stupid.
Yeah.
And we don't like stupid people.
Yeah, I just listened to the newest episode of Sailor Business Diamond, and they like did a Sailor Moon Says thing, and I mean I already have like what we learned from this episode part of this podcast already. Past episodes I did that, and it was inspired by Sailor Business. But since I listened to a Sailor Business episode today, I was like really thinking about the way the Deke dub of Sailor Moon would end with PSAs that just were so bad. Okay, there's another segment where we come up with a Japanese title for the episode because Japanese titles are very different from English titles usually. Like, so this episode was Winner Fakes All. That's one sentence. In Japanese titles, they usually have two sentences. So, and sometimes they have a spoiler in one of the sentences, and a lot of times the second sentence is a question. Let me think. Robotnik started a race. Will Sonic join even though it's a trap?
That does sound like a Japanese title.
Yeah.
Because I think I remember like similar titles when like watching Sonic X.
I remember titles like that watching Soul Eater and just Japanese series in general. Okay, I'm gonna be right back. I have to brush my teeth.
Alright.
Okay, I'm back.
Welcome back.
So I was thinking about something when I was brushing my teeth. So actually there was a new Sonic related development in my life. I watched the second Sonic and it was good. Okay, my dad's at the or he's not at the door, and now someone else is at the door. Oh my god. I have 10 minutes left before I have 10 minutes left to finish this podcast. Okay, I'm just gonna pretend. Anyways, so yeah, the second Sonic movie was, and okay, actually, I finished all the things I wanted to say about this episode. So,
I finished everything I wanted.
Okay, so, where can people find you online if you wish to be found?
So I have a Instagram. It's called Feathered Mask, but make sure to add an ED at the end. I also have a channel. It's just Feathered Mask without the ED. And I also have a Twitter. It's Feathered Mask. Most of my socials are Feathered Mask, by the way.
Okay.
I also have a DeviantArt. It's also called Feathered Mask. So I guess really, wait, no. My DeviantArt is Feathered Mask with an ed at the end. So to find me, usually it's Feathered Mask or Feathered Mask with an ed. So I'm almost on like every social media, but
Okay.
I recommend going to YouTube because I have all my social medias in my bio there.
Okay. Awesome. Well, until next time, see you another Sonic Second. For podcast questions, you can email me through staplersound@gmail.com. As for social media, my main account on Tumblr and Twitter is Magical Stapler, with my art account being Stapler Art. You can also commission me at ko-fi.com/staplerart/commissions. That's ko-fi.com/staplerart.
Summer May Horace. Sonya and Manic must think I'm at the race. They've walked into Butnick's trap.